Attention, smash the like button so more people can enjoy this video.
Busted my wife cheating, so I ended her affair partner's marriage. I'm at a complete loss. I don't know what to do. There were signs, and I overlooked them. I was blinded by love and never imagined this would happen to me. Not with her, my wife and best friend of nearly 20 years. I work out of town and wasn't supposed to be back until tonight. We were supposed to leave for a 2-week road trip tomorrow. Things were slow at work, so I came home yesterday afternoon. This trip was to give us a little alone time since we've been so busy with family and friends this summer. When I got home, there was a truck in my driveway that I didn't recognize. My neighbor just recently asked me how I liked the new truck, but I thought he was mistaken and didn't think much of it. As soon as I could see the truck, I got a terrible gut feeling. I love my wife and trusted her completely, but that feeling was there and strong. I snuck around the side of the house to our bedroom window. It was open and I could hear them as I got close. I looked in the window and my worst fear was confirmed. They were right there, completely naked, on my bed. I walked away. I have been fighting the urge to do something that I know I will regret. I'm struggling to care what happens to me at this point. I went to my family's cabin for the night and drank everything there. Today I was on my way home to confront her and decided against it. I'm not ready. All I can feel is anger. All I can think about is violence. I'm not in a good place right now. Not good enough to see her. I'm back at the cabin right now. I have a 60 ounces of rum, and have been staring at it for an hour. I want to get drunk and forget this, but I don't want to get drunk and make bad decisions. I know this is a critical moment in my life and my actions in the coming days will dictate the rest of my life. That's why I'm here. I need help. I'm not ready to speak to family or friends, so I am reaching out to strangers. Fuck this, world. Update, busted wife cheating. The amount of support and advice I've received is unbelievable. I actually got choked up just realizing how many great people there are out there willing to help a stranger. It gives me a bit of hope for the world at a moment when I needed it most. The downside to all of this support is that I am struggling to respond to people. I have over 600 private messages unread and several hundred comments unread. I want to say thank you to everyone individually, and I'm going to make an effort to do that, but it won't be quick, so I will just start by giving a big thank you to everyone for your kind messages and helpful advice. It really means a lot to me. I have noticed several comments and questions that keep popping up and wanted to provide clarity in addition to my minor update. If you can't tell, I am feeling a lot better today. The pain almost completely went away. I still feel like I've been punched in the gut, but otherwise I have begun looking to the future. It has been 2 days, so this doesn't seem right to me. Is this a calm before the storm, or am I just freakishly resilient? As for the questions and comments I've received, here are some cliff notes to clarify some things. When I said wife and best friend, I was referring to the 2 roles my wife played in my life. The other guy was not my best friend, or even someone I knew. I didn't get a great look at him, but from the quick glance and seeing his vehicle, I don't feel like this is someone I know. We do not have kids. We were planning to have them soon though. We recently sold our house and were set to move closer to my job in September when the new owners take possession. I am going to thank my neighbor, but I am going to do it subtly like he did for me. A lot of people have been asking me about the signs I mentioned overlooking. Off the top of my head, here are a few. Was texting abnormally late at night. Went for after work drinks with friends, regularly. This was not like her, but I was glad that she was being social. She had yoga once a week but was apparently not paying because one of her coworkers was the instructor and she was helping with setup and cleanup. I also thought she was very inflexible for someone who went to yoga. Unknown caller hang-ups. We regularly answer each other's phones if we are closer to it. Several times she had an unknown caller who would hang up as soon as I answered. We get a lot of spam calls, but usually it's a telemarketer or a debt collector looking for the previous owner of the number. Rarely it's a hang-up. The update is a work in progress. When my brother arrived, we had a good long talk. He has been my true best friend and I realized I need to always remember that and know that he will always be there for me without judgment the same way I would be for him. He really sets the standard for what a true friendship is, even if we fight on occasion. Since I was supposed to be home last night, I decided to respond to my wife's text. We aren't allowed to have phones on site, so it was reasonable for me to only be texting her. She knows it's easy for me to sneak in some texts. I wrote her and said I needed to go to one of my company's remote sites and wouldn't be able to call her until the end of the weekend. I told her that I would cancel all of the reservations and rebook later. She said she could take her best friend with her this weekend to the romantic bed and breakfast on a vineyard that I booked. I knew it wasn't the best friend she wanted me to think would be going. I told her that I already gave it to my brother and his wife since it was non-refundable and they would pay me back in a month. This morning, I canceled all of the reservations except the romantic one. My brother is coming with me. Fortunately, the hotel let us switch from the honeymoon suite to a room with 2 beds. There also happens to be a really nice lake and boat rentals nearby, so this just turned into a long overdue fishing trip with my brother. This means I am free for the weekend. I don't have to write her or talk to her for a few days, so that relieves some stress and gives me more time to think. I am currently in the mindset to get a divorce. I honestly can't see it any other way. My brother is supportive of this, but has asked me to take a few weeks and speak to someone. His wife has a friend who is a couples counselor and is willing to talk to me on Monday. I don't see it changing my mind, but at least it might help untangle some of this mess for me. I am also taking a bunch of the advice on here and starting to speak to lawyers, at the very least to prepare for what I think is inevitable. I want to do this right. I've never thought of her as someone who would try to screw me over, but I also never expected her to cheat, so I think I need to be prepared for anything. Thanks again everyone. I'm going to try to enjoy my weekend as much as possible. Update 2. Busted my wife cheating. A lot has happened in the past few days. I'll start with the less important stuff. My brother, Matt, and I drove nearly 5 hours to the B&B on the Vineyard. I really appreciate him being there for me through this. It was more of a venting session than anything, but it really helped clear my head. After spending the better part of the drive whining to him, I just wanted a little alone time while he wanted to go out for dinner. I stayed in the room and he went out to eat and took me back some food. He also managed to rent a boat for the next day. On Saturday we hit the water. The owner of the B&B knew about our plans for fishing and was nice enough to pack us a small cooler of food and drinks. It was their way of making the romantic package more useful for two brothers. It was a nice gesture. Fishing wasn't good. We both caught a couple of trout that we had to release due to their size, so the snacks from the B&B worked out great. We stopped fishing at mid-afternoon and then drove around to all of the vineyards and fruit stands buying food and cases of wine for Matt's wife Jen. That night we went for the biggest tomahawk steak we could find. On Sunday we drove back to Matt's place. He lives in the next town over from me, which is about an hour away from my place. When we arrived, Jen was there and we all sat and cracked a bottle of white we had chilling in the cooler. This is when the weekend officially ended for me. Jen told me that while we were away that she decided to go spy on my wife. She told me that the guy was at my place on Friday night all night, but on Saturday morning she managed to get there just as he was leaving. She followed him home and found the apartment where he lived. My wife stayed over there on Saturday night. The same time she was sending me text messages saying she loves me and misses me. Jen said that she was splitting her time between visiting family who live in my town and stalking my wife. She said that she happened to catch my wife leaving his apartment on Sunday morning and took a few pics of them hugging and kissing before she got into her car. I don't want to see them. That pretty much sealed the deal for me. I don't think I could ever trust her again if she can turn it on and off so easily to tell me she loves me while being with a different guy. Still, I decided that I am not going to jump to a knee-jerk reaction based on emotions. I need to remain calm and level. That's when Jen told me that Sharon was coming over for dinner. Sharon is the counselor that Jen set me up with an appointment for. To clarify, she has never met my wife and this was my first time meeting her as well. Sharon was a very nice person and we got along great. After dinner, Sharon and I went for a walk around Matt's neighborhood to walk the dogs and have a bit of a private conversation. Sharon was really helpful in the fact that she was a great listener and made me feel like I didn't need to be guarded. It was therapeutic to be that free with describing my feelings. As much as I am comfortable with my brother, this was just different and very needed. It's the same reason why I like writing this on Reddit. It's a vent session that helps me untangle some of the mess in my head. Our walk lasted an hour and the only real advice that Sharon gave me was to not delay the conversation with my wife. She said that the longer I wait, the harder it will become to talk to her about this. She said I need clarity more than anything at this point, and my wife is the only person that can give that to me. Later that night Jen and Matt offered me to stay with them for as long as necessary. I know that Matt and I have an expiry period for being in close quarters with each other, so I spoke to my boss who was able to set me up in company housing. I've been staying there every second week for a while, but have to leave on days off. He managed to make it work for me to stay full-time for a few months if I needed. I decided to rebook with Sharon for later this week. I figured our walk sufficed for the first session. She agreed. I spent the night on Sunday just laying in bed thinking about how to approach this. I struggled with this because even the imaginary scenario in my head was making me angry or sad. I decided I would just wing it. I'm usually good under pressure. Yesterday I woke up and said my goodbyes to Matt and Jen. I drove towards home and was thinking what if he was there when I arrived. Then I thought that it would likely just put me back in the angry spot I was a few days ago. I decided to do a drive-by first. Neither his truck or my wife's car were there. I went inside and grabbed a bunch of essentials and things I don't want to part with. Mainly just some photos and old family heirlooms. I got them all packed up in my truck and then headed over to the guy's apartment. Her car wasn't there either, but his truck was. I decided to write her to see where she was. She said she was getting groceries. I trust her so little right now that I drove by the grocery store and actually confirmed she was there. I feel so dirty admitting that I did that, but my trust is broken and it's the only way I can be certain of anything. I wrote her again and told her to just come home because we need to talk. She wrote back, "What's wrong?" I just responded and said she needs to be ready to be honest, and then turned my phone off. She got home 15 minutes later. When she came in, she came over to give me a hug and kiss like she does every time. I turned away from her. She asked me again what was wrong, so I told her that she needs to start being honest with me. She played dumb and said she had no idea what I was talking about. I said, "Okay, if you can't be honest then I am leaving." She started panicking at this point and said, "Are you talking about yoga?" I figured it was a start. I asked her what she was talking about, and she told me that she hadn't been going to yoga. Here's a bit of a breakdown of the rest of the conversation. Me, if you weren't going to yoga, then where were you going? Her, I was taking walks to relax because I've been so stressed lately. Me, why were you so stressed? And why did you lie to me about what you were doing? Her, preparing for the move has been stressing me out, and I just didn't know how to tell you. Me, so lying was the decision you made? What was your concern with telling me that you were going for a walk to de-stress? Her, I didn't mean to lie. I was worried that my stress would add to your stress. Me, but I'm not stressed. It really seems like you are not telling me everything. Her, what do you mean? Me, I think that you're lying about more than just skipping yoga. I am asking you again to be honest. You've already lied to me, So this can't work if you keep lying. Her, I don't know what else to say. Oh, are you talking about last weekend when I went for drinks with some friends and came home late? I had a feeling that bothered you. I had no clue that she went for drinks, or was out late. I was at work a couple hours away. Me, is that what you actually did that night, or was that a lie as well? Her, I went for drinks that night, but I didn't see her best friend who she supposedly was with that night. Me, who did you see? Her, no one. I just drank alone. Me, you drink alone now? Her, yeah, maybe I have a problem. Me, maybe, we'll talk about that later. Last chance, be honest or I'm leaving. Her, I don't know what else to say. Me, okay, I'm leaving. At this point I got up and left. Usually when we have an argument I go for a drive to get away from her. She probably thought this was the same. Then she realized I took my clothes and toiletries, as well as the Xbox. That's when she began blowing up my phone. I told her that I gave her a chance to be honest and she didn't, so there's nothing left to say. She begged and pleaded with me to come home to talk about this in person. She said she had no idea why I was so upset or what I think she did. She repeated that she loved me and would never hurt me. Just hearing her say that really tore a new hole in my chest. It was always comforting words that I believed without question. Now it's a dull, jagged knife sawing through my heart in the most devastating way. I couldn't handle it, so I hung up. She called back about 40 times before I was ready to answer again. This time she said, "Did you talk to Karen, her best friend?" I asked why, and she said, "Come home. I don't want to say this over the phone." I agreed and drove around a little longer to get my heart rate back down. Then I went home. That conversation went like this. Her, I assume you spoke to Karen? Me, her, well, a few weeks ago while you were at work we went for drinks. A couple of guys started buying us drinks, so we just played along. When we were leaving, one of the guys tried to kiss me. I pulled away immediately and told him I was married. I felt so bad about it and wanted to tell you, but I'm an idiot and just decided to hide it from you. Karen hooked up with the other guy and gave his friend my number without asking me. He has texted me a few times since, but I have never written him back. Me, can I see your phone? Her, yes. She showed me her phone, which was completely empty of texts except for myself and her mother. She never deletes her texts, so this was new. I looked at her photos, which was also clean, but then I checked the deleted photos and found one of a guy I didn't recognize. Me, who is this? Her, that's the guy who tried to kiss me. Me, why did you take a picture of him? Her, I was just being stupid. Me, that's not a reason. Why did you take a picture of him? Her, I don't know. Me, is that everything you want to tell me, or is there more? Her, that's all I can think of. Once again, I left. I didn't want to be trickle-truthed. I got in my truck and drove away. She ran outside trying to stop me, but I was already out of reach. I went to the park nearby and just sat on my tailgate and ate my lunch trying to figure out what to do next. While there I began remembering other things that I should have been more aware of. Things like, I was working a weekend shift and was in bed early. My wife went out to the club with a few of her girlfriends. I woke up at 4 a.m. and she still wasn't home. I called her a few times, but there was no answer. About 30 minutes later she called me back and asked if I would come and get her. When I picked her up, she told me that they were trying to hail a taxi but had no luck. A couple of guys that her friend knew stopped and offered them a ride, but wanted to stop at home first. When they got to the guy's house, her married friend went into room with one of the guys. My wife said she spent some time looking for her but then eventually gave up and just had a drink in the kitchen with the roommates while she waited. She claims she didn't hear her phone when I tried calling. We fought about this, and she was disgusted by her friend's actions, so she cut that friend out of her life. I thought that was over. Another time she traveled to visit a close friend in a different city. It was a planned girls' night. There were 4 girls all getting drunk and watching movies in their PJs. At least that's what I was told. Then she called me around 1 a.m. to say goodnight. We spoke for about 20 minutes and she repeatedly told me that they were having a great girls' night. Then I heard a guy's voice in the background. I asked who it was, and she denied hearing anything at first. Then it happened again, loudly. She couldn't deny it, so she was like, "Oh yeah, X took a couple of guys with her. Everyone here is super pissed about it. She was drunk and 3 hours away. She left me no choice but to trust her." Again, we fought about that and why she refused to tell me they were there. She promised never to put herself in that type of situation again. Clearly that didn't stick. After remembering all of those things, and the conversations we had about them, I was ready to give this one last shot. I turned my phone back on and almost immediately it rang. I answered and she was screaming for me to come home. I drove back to the house. I walked inside and was immediately confronted by her bawling her eyes out. She was sitting on the couch repeating, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I asked her sorry for what? She began rocking back and forth like a crazy person. It took her a good 5 minutes to catch her breath enough to speak. Her, I lied about the guy who tried to kiss me. Me, okay. Tell me what happened. Her, the 4 of us actually went back to his place that night. We fooled around. I knew it was more than that, but just hearing her say it made me feel dizzy. It felt like the room was getting smaller and there were a million people speaking into my ears at the same time. I think I was having a panic attack. I went to the bathroom and washed my face in cold water until things returned to normal. Me, what did you do? Her, do you want me to actually tell you? Me, yes. Her, he fingered me and I gave him a blowjob. Me, Was that it? Her, yes. Me, I'm not playing this game any longer. You either tell me everything right now, or this will be the last time we speak. She began bawling again and took another few minutes before she was able to speak her. We met up again and had sex. I'm so sorry. I love you and will do anything to make up for this. Me, just the one time? Her, if I tell you the truth, please give me a chance to do anything I can to make up for it. Please. Me, I'll think about it. Her, it was an affair. We had been hooking up while you're out of town for work. It's been going on for almost a month now. He is married and they are about to get divorced. Me, does he know you're married? Her, yes. Me, if he's having an affair because his marriage is failing, does that mean you think ours is failing? Is that what you told him? Her, no, I don't think ours is failing. I'm so stupid. I hate myself. Please don't leave me. I can fix this. Me, how? Her, whatever you want. Me, if you were in my shoes, or even his wife's shoes, what would fix this for you? Her, knowing the truth. Being able to trust you to mean what you are saying. You can trust me. I screwed up and won't do that again. Me, if you were his wife, wouldn't you want to know the truth? Her, yes. Me, then fix this. Her, you want me to call her? Me, if you think that is what you would want. She tried calling, but never got an answer. A few minutes later her cell phone rang. It was listed as Karen, work. She looked shocked, so I knew that wasn't Karen. I asked if that was him. She said it was. I answered, and being the coward he is, he said, oops, I must have the wrong number. I said no. This is the husband of the girl you've been cheating with. I'm going to let you speak to her because she has something to say to you. I passed her the phone. Her, I told him everything. He knows the entire truth. We're done. It was just a fling and now you need to never contact me again. I asked to see the phone before she hung up me. What divorce lawyer are you using? Him, I'm not getting divorced. Me, oh, but didn't you tell me, wife, that you were? Him, no. Me, okay, then can I speak to your wife? I feel she has as much right to know about this as I do. Him, please man, I didn't know she was married. Don't ruin my marriage over a mistake. Me, you ruined mine over a mistake. It's only fair that I tell your wife. Him, please don't. She's at work right now. I will tell her everything when she gets home, I swear. Me, okay, you do that. That's where I hung up. I asked my wife if she knew where his wife worked and her name. She did. I had my wife call over and ask for her at work. She did get her on the phone and told her to take a seat. This woman said she was just getting ready to leave for the day and she would call my wife back from her car. She did, his wife. What's going on? My wife, I have something terrible to tell you and I don't want to cause any accidents. Please don't drive. His wife, OMG, did something happen to his name? My wife, no. He's at your apartment right now. I am just letting you know that we have been having an affair for a month now. I'm coming clean to my husband right now and thought you should be given the same respect. She went silent for about a minute, then said, if this is some sick joke, I will find out who you are. Then she hung up. Not even 10 minutes later my wife got a text from Karen, work, saying, thanks, you just ruined my life. I grabbed the phone and wrote back, you just ruined 4 lives and 2 marriages. Don't forget that this was your fault, you piece of shit. For the next hour my wife begged and pleaded with me to stay with her. She offered counseling. She offered to never leave my side. She even offered me sexual favors. This was everything that I expected thanks to the comments in here. She then said we should go on that vacation. Her treat. We need time away was her reason. We need to spend some quality time together because my work schedule has been pushing us apart lately. Also exactly what I expected her to say. She wasn't expecting me to tell her that I went anyway. She also wasn't expecting me to tell her that I already have counseling booked for myself. She definitely wasn't expecting me to tell her that I busted her on my very own bed. I could only imagine she didn't expect me to have a place already lined up to stay. When I told her all of that, she fell to the floor bawling. She started saying how she doesn't deserve to live. She told me I should just kill her right now because she's too terrible to be with anyone. It went on like that for a while. I stayed for a total of 4 hours listening to her make excuses, then try to hug me or cuddle me, or even blow me if I would just stay and work through this with her. In the end, I called Karen and told her that her cheating friend is suicidal and that she should come keep an eye on her. Then I left. It's been almost a full day since that went down and I haven't spoken to her since. She has been calling and texting me all day. Her friends and family have been calling and texting me all day. Everyone has a different excuse, or a different plea for empathy. Her father is the only one who wrote me and told me that I need to do what is best for me and that he will always love me like a son no matter what happens. Reading that was what made me have a good cry for the first time since all of this began. I meet with Sharon, my counselor, tomorrow and a lawyer on Thursday. I think I know where this is going, but until it happens I am just not sure about anything. I'm sorry for the overly long-winded story. It just helps to vent in this way. Again, I really appreciate all of the comments and messages. The people sharing their own stories like this are really helping me feel less broken and giving me more hope. I sincerely appreciate everything you've all said and done for me. Is my ghosted ex-wife possibly tracking me down? I headed to the hills after learning of my wife's affair. I don't exactly know why I'm writing this, but now that the events are over and done and I've moved on, maybe it will help someone. In February 2018, I discovered my wife's affair after we had been married for 3.5 years. I had a contract job that involved a lot of travel at times, but also allowed me to work from home when I was back. My wife had a very well-paying job as a director of a technical sales firm. We had what I would describe as a really good marriage, although things had gotten a bit strained from my being away on work trips and her working longer and longer hours. Backstory: I met my wife, now ex, 5 years ago, at a mutual friend's barbecue. We struck up a conversation and had an instant chemistry, and quite honestly, I thought I was beating the odds being with such a beautiful and well-spoken woman. Somehow, she really liked me for my rough around the edges persona. Once we dating after a few weeks, we couldn't get enough of each other, and the clothes just flew off when we would meet at each other's apartments. We finally tied the knot after dating for 18 months, and moved into a big apartment, while saving for a house. After the first 3 years of marriage, things started changing. I still was crazy about her, but I noticed she would start arguments about little things, and she would get angry when I would bring up all the late hours and the work outings that had been more and more frequent. She would say it's part of paying the dues since she had been climbing the corporate ladder, or at least that was her excuse. She told me I had no right to question her, since I was gone for weeks at a time myself. I had told her I could certainly manage reducing my travel hours, and had actually only been going on trips maybe 3-4 days, every 5 weeks or so. These arguments were very circular, and never had a resolution. As I look back, I had no idea my wife was in the midst of an affair. I would have never suspected a thing, except for her continued late work hours and our dwindling sex life. I just attributed this to her being tired from work. However, my ego had taken a beating from being turned down frequently when trying to initiate sex. I didn't see the secretive texting that I read about, but then again, she had a company cell phone and she could have been using it, since she spent a lot of time in our spare bedroom that she would use as a home office. It was around September of 2017 when Kathy started coming home after work, and then head off to a work engagement for the evening. This went from 1 evening a week to more than 3 evenings a week. I'm not that jealous by nature, but there is no way she would go unnoticed, and I know she would have to fend off some of the men at her office. She only seemed to be interested in work, but she was working with more male executives than female. My first suspicion of her cheating occurred a month before D-Day. She had stopped off at the store before coming home. She asked me to help with the groceries. While I was grabbing a couple bags from the back seat of her car, I noticed something pink glinting from just underneath the front passenger seat. It was one of my wife's bras. I recognized it as hers, since she liked the ones from a particular apparel store. In retrospect, I now realize the reason for the red flag with the bra. When she gets in the mood, she always takes off her bra first, from underneath her clothes. I don't know exactly why, but I instantly just had a sinking feeling in my gut when I saw this. I could not rationalize what her bra was doing under the seat. I just left it there under the seat. It almost made me sick, and my heart must have been racing like crazy, because when I returned to the kitchen with the bags, Kathy asked if I was okay, and that I looked like I had seen a ghost. I just brushed her comment off. I tried my best not to look angry or betrayed, but it took all I had to hide my feelings. That evening and the next, I decided to see if I could find out if she was involved with someone or not. I started thinking about all the clues I was missing. I had no proof except for the bra incident. We live in a fairly large city and her work is in a downtown office building. I kind of took my focus off of the affair idea for a bit and decided maybe I should give her more attention. One Friday after work, I made a nice dinner, set up the dining table with nice plates, silverware, and candles. I bought a nice bottle of wine, and a bouquet of roses. She came breezing in after work as usual. I pointed out the dinner and everything I had prepared. She gave me a sad smile and told me she was sorry, but she had plans to meet up with her co-workers tonight at a local hangout. She said she could grab a quick bite with me before she left, but had to jump in the shower first. I think my insides flipped on me and I became completely speechless. I won't tell you what kind of rage I was feeling at that point, but I had finally had enough. While she was in the shower, I grabbed my company cell phone and planted it in her back seat. I had been thinking of this lately as a way I could track her location with my personal phone. I went in and dumped the meal in the trash along with the flowers. She came back after her shower dressed up and looking great as usual. She said, "Okay, let's eat." I told her never mind, go out with your friends. She looked at me strangely and asked if I was mad. I said I'm disappointed by you never wanting to do anything together. She became angry and told me to quit acting like a child and that something snarky about having a short fuse. I stood there, letting all this sink in and said, "Foolish me, I thought you'd like to spend the evening together, for once." She just smirked at me and left in a huff. I took out my other phone and started tracking my work phone. I saw her stop about 20 minutes away at the bar that she frequents with her work buddies. I decided to head out and locate her car. Sure enough, there it was in the parking lot of the bar. I sat across the street in my car waiting to see if I could see her. I felt so unlike myself, like a stalker. But I rationalized I needed to at least satisfy my anxiety about her whereabouts. About an hour after I arrive, I see her coming out of the bar with a man. He looks like one of the execs I've seen from her work. He grabs her and pulls her close and kisses her. My stomach went into knots. My body went completely numb. They head over to another car and get in together. I do my best to follow them as the car pulls out. They travel about 10 minutes away to, you guessed it, a hotel. I pull over on the street next to the hotel. I watch as they get out and head hand in hand into the hotel. I've seen enough. I'm an idiot. I start banging my fist on the steering wheel. That's it. Something inside me went completely blank, and I'm not sure if I blacked out or had an out-of-body experience. When I recovered myself, I decided I needed a drink. Now, this is when my life took a new direction that I would have never guessed. I just started driving out of town, just reliving everything I had just witnessed, and I hate to say, crying with rage. I headed towards the outskirts of town, about 30 miles. I find a nice little bar and pull in. I find a seat at the bar and order a drink. I must have looked like death warmed over, because the bartender, female, mentioned that I looked like someone took the wind out of my sails. I half smiled and said you could say that. A guy takes a stool next to me and starts up a conversation. I'm not in much of a mood to talk, but something about this guy just made me feel comfortable. We start talking, and after a while, the subject of my wife cheating just tumbles out of my mind. How I just want to leave her and forget her. He looks at me and slaps me on the back. He says, "Buddy, you are not alone there. Happened to me a few years ago." I believe that sometimes, these things happen for a reason. And let me tell you, your life can now change either for the better, or the worse. It's entirely up to you at this point. Something about him saying this really shook me out of my glum mood. I mean, I know I'm hurting, but I have always been able to see things logically. And he is so right. Now we introduce each other. His name is Ray. He is kind of a country guy, but is just the sort of salt of the earth type that I really respect. He asks me when I'm going to move out. I guess it never occurred to me to even think that far ahead. I know I don't want to be around this woman anymore. And I do have this fight or flight feeling coursing through me. Ray says, "I feel very sympathetic to your situation. And have an idea. If it comes to it, and you feel like you need to leave at some point, I've got a travel trailer sitting on my property. It's not great and it could use a bit of fixing up. Why don't you come out and check it out and see if you could see yourself living in something like that temporarily at least? I'll make you a great deal on it. I even have a nice piece of property that you could park it on. You would be doing me a favor to keep an eye on it for me. It might do you some good to get away from your situation." Just a thought. It took me a minute to register his idea. The bartender had been overhearing the conversation and smiles. "Hell, honey," she says, "if I could have escaped my crazy ex-husband years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to go live in his trailer or anything to just get my head on straight. I feel like I have stumbled into the twilight zone, but maybe this is exactly what I need." I tell Ray, "Yes, I'll think about it and maybe check it out." We part ways after a bit, and make plans to meet out at his place in a few days. I started to feel like I have a little bit of perspective and a chance for getting out of what I believe is a nightmare, mixed in with a heavy heartache. One thing is for certain, there is no way I'll ever want to be with my wife again. Cheating is such a vile thing to me and has always been the one thing that I believe I would never tolerate. I got home after Kathy that night and sat on the couch. Kathy came out and asked me where I'd been. I turned to her and asked her where she had been. She says, "You know, I went to grab drinks." I asked her point blank, "Are you having an affair?" She looks a little startled but regains her composure and says, "No. Why would you ask me that?" I tell her I heard she may be involved with someone from work. She asks, "Who told you that?" I tell her someone that I know but would not divulge the name. She just tells me you are being ridiculous, and that I'm drunk and delusional, and asks me where I have been. I tell her out to a bar, to have some drinks with friends. She just stares at me, wanting to ask me more, but just heads back to our bedroom and goes back to bed. I decided to sleep on the couch, since I now have confirmation that she has been lying for months to me. I didn't sleep at all, and start picturing her with this guy in bed, and I'm disgusted and hurt and feeling sorry for myself. However, I start thinking about Ray's trailer. It is almost a revelation, and the idea of it just made me feel better. I must have something wrong with me, but with the pain I was in, the fight or flight mode just instinctively kicked in, and the flight part won me over. The next morning, we don't speak much and go about the weekend as if nothing had happened. A few days later, I made plans to meet up with Ray. I met up at Ray's place. He owns a nice ranch and the trailer is actually really nice. About 26 and has all the necessities one needs to live in it. I had traveled with some friends in one, back in college, during a spring break and really enjoyed it. I make Ray an offer on it, and he agrees to the price. I practically steal it from him. He gives me directions to his ranch property and I drive over to check it out. It is beautiful, full of trees, scrub brush, and it looks like there are nearby hiking and biking trails bordering it. It's near the foothills of some mountains and Ray has a small shack on a hill overlooking the property, with water and electricity for the trailer available. Ray will pull the travel trailer to the site and set it up for me. I tried to get Kathy to come clean during the next few weeks and all I get is gaslighting. I even point blank tell her that if I find out she is cheating, there is no going back. This has the opposite effect of driving her deeper into her affair fog, and blistering me in denials. The denial is so bad, it almost made me laugh. I have no physical proof of her cheating, and kick myself for not at least taking some photos of the two of them. As I go through this mental agony, I come to the conclusion that I want out of this marriage. Rather than let Kathy know how I feel about things now, I just start making plans. I started stealthily taking my belongings out of the apartment while she was at work, and moving them over to the trailer. This at least makes me feel like I'm taking action. I did notice a change in Kathy during this time, and has been acting nicely around me, but in my mind, too little, too late. As she continued her little company outings after work, I decided I too needed a break. In fact, as she was heading out for the evening, I also got dressed around the same time. She looked at me and asked where I was going. I just said I was meeting up with some friends. She started to ask, and I just told her she didn't know them and she wouldn't enjoy all the shop talk. This is exactly what she would tell me when I would ask if I could join her at one of her office outings. She kind of had a hurt look on her face and says, "Okay, have a nice time." I said I definitely would. Between working on the trailer, and meeting up with Ray at the bar, I have started to make more friends. In fact, it has led to some fun times with a great group of Ray's friends and family. And in case anyone asks, I decided I would moderate my drinking, so I don't develop any bad habits. It would be so easy to drown myself in pity. About this time frame, Kathy tells me she has to go on a trip for work the following week. I ask her who is all going and she tells me the executive team and some department heads. I just look at her and tell her I hope she has a really great time with her boyfriend. I kind of wish I hadn't said that. It started a lot of arguing back and forth. In a lot of ways, I wish I knew more about her AP, but as Ray put it to me, in the long run, it doesn't matter who the other guy is, it only matters that she decided to step out on you. She burned down the marriage. She can own it, or deny it, but facts are facts, brother. Damn, Ray should write this stuff down and publish it for the betrayed. Her work trip provided me with the opportunity to move the rest of my stuff out completely, so after Kathy left for her trip, I gathered everything I had left of any value, and put it in my vehicle. I'm not taking any furniture or the like, so it's just clothes, and work computers and equipment. Before I left, I had written a note that I was going to leave for her, but after rereading it, I decided I would just make it simple. I grabbed a piece of paper, and wrote I hope it was worth it. I placed my wedding ring on top of the note sitting on the kitchen table. I felt a huge weight come off of me. I felt free, no more hiding the truth. I know I will have some baggage to deal with, and some hurt to get over, but I have time to heal now. I just need some space, and need to get her out of my life, as quietly and quickly as possible. I'm not proud that I never confronted her more or pulled a confession out of her. I never got to yell and scream and curse her after confessing. I had come to the conclusion in my mind that she didn't deserve me. She disrespected everything we had. Our future plans are history. We were saving for a house, and a future family. All of that is gone now. No going back. I don't owe her a damn thing. She can deal with the fallout. Aftermath. I didn't have an agenda at all. I didn't contact a lawyer or anything. I just wanted to get some clarity. I really enjoyed my new trailer, and the mountainous air was exactly what I needed. In the following week, I took up running again, and it felt great to be alive. I never answered any of Kathy's texts while she was away. There wasn't much to respond to. They were just highlights, like, we just landed, we are having a team dinner, etc. She did send a few where are yous, and let me hear from you, etc. The day she returned home, my phone blew up. She texted me incessantly, and tried calling me constantly. After the first day, her mother tried calling me. There's only my dad left on my family side, and we aren't close, so she didn't try to get him involved. After the first few crying messages, I never bothered to listen to the rest of her voicemails. Her texts consisted of what is this? We need to talk. I don't know what you think you know, but there is nothing going on. I'm not involved with anyone. I'm not having an affair. After a week of not responding, she finally leaves me a text saying, I'm sorry, things got out of hand. I was involved with someone at work, but it meant nothing. I got caught up in my work and you were gone a lot, and I just made a mistake. I was going to end it. Haha, a mistake? This was the confession I had been seeking all along. For some reason, it just made me dislike her even more. Why couldn't she be honest? This wasn't the woman I had dreamed of building a future together. And mistakes don't last for what, 6-8 months or a year? At one point her pleading for me to come back and work on the marriage became pathetic. She quit bothering me for a couple weeks. I still refused to answer her. I did not want her to pry anything out of me where I was living. I did not want this woman ruining my sanctuary. Then one day, she started sending me angry texts like you are a coward. You won't talk to me. You don't care about us. Please come home so we can talk. Where are you? I can come to you. Damn it, Paul. Please, let's talk and fix things. I don't remember all the messages, but they all seemed to be excuses and very little in the way of apologies. I let it all go in one ear and out the other. I finally changed my cell phone number. Update, June 2018. Kathy sent me an email telling me she had retained a lawyer and was filing for divorce. I sent her a reply that said, okay, sounds good. This resulted in a flurry of emails demanding I come see her, and so forth. She realized this wouldn't get her anywhere, and after a while, she just wrote that if I agreed to an uncontested divorce, she wouldn't bother me anymore. I agreed, and several months later, finally, I was truly a free man. I never had to see her after I left our apartment. No closure for either of us, but it seemed like that was more important to her than to me. For a few months, I did think of her sometimes, and yes, the pain would appear out of nowhere, like if I heard a song come on the radio that we used to listen to, etc. But eventually, I just stopped thinking about her. Update 2. Well, I am officially divorced. Things are really good now. As a matter of fact, I met a great girl. I was out on a run on the trail just down the hill from where I live. I helped her change a flat tire and we really hit it off. She is amazing, and cute as hell, though a few years younger than me. She loves my lifestyle, and calls me her mountain man. I'm in no hurry to get serious, but I'm not about to give up on women completely. I'm still up here in the trailer. I have no plans to change anytime soon, and I've simplified my life quite a bit. I love the outdoors. It helped me get over my ex-wife, the heartache, everything. I know everyone handles these things differently. I was lucky to not have children yet, and was only into my 3rd year of marriage, so I think I did what was right for me. You don't have to live your life with a cheater. If something like this happens to you, please, just don't dwell on it. Just move on with your life. It gets better after you work on yourself. I wish everyone the best life they can have. Just wanted to update on the situation I found myself in with my ex-wife and have rewritten this about 5 times to make it legible. As mentioned in my previous post, I was concerned that my ex-wife was trying to track me down in an attempt to reconcile or something. I had moved some 2 hours from where we used to live. I saw her last weekend in a coffee shop I go to frequently in the town that is near to where I live. I was suspicious that it was not a coincidence that she was there. Luckily I was able to leave before she saw me. Update, I came back into town this past weekend to grab a few groceries and went to grab a coffee in the place I usually go to, as well as work on some documents I needed to fill out for work, using their free internet. After finishing up, I left the coffee shop. While I'm walking towards my truck, I hear someone yell Paul? I look across the street and oh shit, there's Kathy, my ex, waving at me. Armageddon had finally happened. I stood there in shock. She runs across the street, and approaches me, and reaches out to me, expecting a hug, and I instinctively hold my arms out with palms out and she stops. She looks at me really hurt. She then says, Paul, I've been looking for you. I heard you moved out here and wanted to see you. Can we talk? I feel like a trapped animal. Guys, I really did. So I relented and said, okay, let's find a table or something and we can talk for a minute. She asks if we can go to my place, and I just flat out said no. She follows me down to a bench outside a little shop at the end of the block. She starts by saying how much I've changed and how she loves my new look, my beard, blah, blah. She liked how my physique had changed, how I looked so fit. She puts on a good act, and guys, she looked hot. She had on these little white shorts and a tank top and her hair in a ponytail like I used to like. My radar was on high alert and I could tell she was really turning on the sex appeal. I had to really rein myself in here and see where this was going. She starts out by apologizing about the whole affair thing. She says karma really hit her hard after I left. Her company learned of her affair, and basically made things so unpleasant that she quit. Her AP, who had a fiancé at the time, got a reprimand and was moved to another position within the company. He blamed her for his having to move and she retaliated by telling his fiancé everything, which resulted in them breaking up. She lowered her head a little and started crying. I just sat there looking around, not having anything to say. She straightened up and stared at me for a bit. I asked her what she wanted from me. She wanted to tell me that she never intended to start an affair, that she felt like she was drawn in by all the politics and positioning in the company, and thought the AP really manipulated her with his charisma and power within the company, and that she stupidly thought she was using him as much as he was using her. She was going to come clean with me, especially after I accused her of having an affair. She hated herself during that time, and the after-work drinking was her attempt to medicate from the guilt. That right after I left her, she felt so foolish, so alone, like her heart just imploded with loss. She immediately broke things off with her AP. She felt that since I wouldn't contact her or talk to her, that she had to find me and see if she could make things right for us and if we could start over again. She knows we are divorced, but maybe we could have a clean slate. I just stared at her. I let her have it. I'm paraphrasing the conversation, but here it is. How dare you think you can just come out here and think you can just wipe away all the shit you caused? I'm to forgive everything you did to ruin our marriage. I told you before, if you cheated on me, we were through. There is no forgiveness. There is no reboot of this relationship. You killed it. You destroyed what we had the minute you stepped out on me. How stupid do you think I am? I followed you one night and saw you go into a hotel together. Do you know that? I then realized that I had been raising my voice and people were starting to notice. She started to sob. She grabbed my arm. I let her cry on my shoulder a little, before nudging her away. She looked up at me. I deserve all this. I know I do. Can you at least let me take you to dinner or something? I don't want to leave. I want to talk more. I want to make sure we have everything out in the open. I need time with you that you didn't give me before. Please, Paul, I know you may not want to hear this, but I love you so much. I didn't know how much I loved you until you left me, and broke me. And I broke you just as bad. I can't forgive myself. I don't want to forgive myself, until the day I die. She started hyperventilating and sobbing so bad, that I pulled her up and hugged her. I know. I felt like that was the only thing I could do to maybe calm her down. At that moment I realized, I did actually break her heart, like she broke mine. I started walking with her, and then found a nice quiet path to walk on. And things settled down a bit. I then asked her how she found me and did she hire a pie or something. She laughed a little and said no. She thought about it though. She ran into Stacy a couple weeks ago, and she asked her how things were going. Stacy let it slip that she saw me. Kathy made her spill every single detail. Stacy didn't want to tell her because I told her not to. But she wouldn't let her go until she did. But all she really knew was that she saw me here in town and that I lived somewhere in the vicinity. So she started coming here on her days off to see if she could find me. She really blushed when she said that. I kind of chuckled that damn Stacy can't keep her trap shut. So we did go to dinner. We found a nice little place with a patio. I made sure we didn't drink anything. I didn't want any excuse for her to soften me up or claim she was too drunk to drive back. We actually had a good talk. Afterwards, I walked her to her car. She wanted to stay and pressed me hard on it and wouldn't relent. She hadn't been with anybody else since I left, and swore up and down I was the only one she wanted. I told her no, it's still way too soon for me to go down that road. She begged to see me again, but I was non-committal. I gave her my new email address, but that was it. She wanted my phone number, but I told her no. You'll just blow it up with texts and calls. She cried about that one. She said she would be back in town next weekend if I was interested. I didn't say anything to that. She said she will email me and tell me all the details of when/where. Before she left, I asked her point blank if she would forgive me if I had done the cheating. She sat there thinking and she said, yes, she would in time, but only if we saw a marriage counselor or if we could work through the healing process with lots of talking and maybe even a binding agreement. I said, okay, maybe I could do that 5-10 years from now. She said if that's what it would take she would wait. She then took my hands in hers, looked me in the eye and said something that really surprised me. She said, God damn it, Paul, I will always love you and will do anything to prove it. At that she left. I'm still so shook by that. She said it with such conviction. I still can't see myself back with her. I feel better though. Right now, I can't even see her as in friends with benefits. Maybe a friend, but damn, I just don't know if we could ever work out again. Don't call me a chump, because second chances are rare in my book. I went home and had a nice long run and a few beers, and felt I was in a good place now. Can someone guarantee me that she wouldn't ruin that? I don't know. I just don't know. It's too fresh on my mind, but I have the luxury of time to sort all this out and get some perspective. Okay, so this will probably be my last update. I posted my story on Reddit, but the mod kept removing it. To recap, my ex-wife did find me and we did talk. After over a year of her being ghosted by me, her intention in finding me was indeed to reconcile and restart our life together. To those that wrote to me predicting that I would be the typical beta blue pill fool and forgive her and fall back in with her, you will be sorely disappointed. She did write me a long email this past week, professing her love and regret for the affair. Once again, she wanted to come back out and spend the weekend with me. My response to all this was to shut her down. I have been perfectly content to live the solo life for now, living in my remote location, and keep my situation as uncomplicated as possible. I have enjoyed the company of several women and friends, and at 32, feel there is no hurry in changing things up. I have my own self-determination roadmap, and I intend to follow it for now. So in answering her email, I refused to give her my new phone number. I laid it all out. I told her, no, I do not have any intention in reconciling with her. She made her bed, and I no longer trust her, nor do I know her any longer. I wished her the best, and will consider her a possible friend, maybe someday, in a future yet to be determined. My vagueness really frustrated her. So she replied with something very telling. She was, of course, thoroughly disappointed in my response. But she also informed me that she had accepted a job offer several states away, and her real intention all along was for me to come with her. She knows my job is remote and I can live anywhere I choose, and she thought that I would consider coming with her in an exchange. We would have a brand new start, in a brand new location. She had little time left before she would be leaving, and wanted to see me in person, and put the hard sell on me. Fortunately for me, I have to leave for business for a week, so our time is up, thank God. So she will be gone from my life now. I imagine I will get a few more emails for a bit longer, but in time, I believe she will realize her time with me has expired, and she will have to find someone else. And she may cheat on them, too. Just thought I would share the update. So guys, live your best life, get rid of that old baggage, and empower yourself to move forward. Good luck to you all. Sister-in-law offered me hush money to hide her affair. I accepted it for years until her lover threatened me, so I spilled their secret by mistake. Hey, so I'll try to keep this as short as possible. I, 22F, have an older brother, 26M, and he's been married to his girlfriend of 2 years for about 6 months. My brother and I don't get along at all and haven't been on good terms since high school when he spread a rumor about me, that I was a kleptomaniac and people had to be wary of me. He did this because he was mad at me for telling his then girlfriend that he'd been flirting with another girl who had a bio with him. My brother was a bit of a playboy in high school and he had a reputation for messing around with multiple girls at a time because he thought that made him look cool. So when I told his then girlfriend that he'd been cheating on her, she confronted him in the cafeteria and there was a whole thing that went down where she totally humiliated him in front of all his cronies. He found out somehow that I'd tattled and to retaliate, he spread that rumor about me. Of course, everyone believed him because he was 18 and a senior on the varsity football team and I was just a 14-year-old freshman. He ruined the next couple of years of my life with that rumor because I was already kind of unattractive and dorky in high school with braces, so a rumor like this was the last thing I needed. I got bullied relentlessly for the next 4 years after my brother graduated and I didn't even get to attend prom or homecoming or any of the other events because nobody wanted to be seen with me. That's how bad the bullying was. I had a couple of friends who were only with me because they'd also been bullied, so that was some solace, but still, my brother had totally ruined my high school experience with what he did and it stayed with me. That kind of bullying is enough to scar anyone for life. And the saddest part was that I hadn't even offered that information to his girlfriend voluntarily. She cornered me after school one day and demanded to know if the other girl had anything to do with my brother, and I just got too intimidated because she was a senior and a lot bigger than me physically, so I told her the truth. I didn't want any trouble and I also didn't want to lie because I felt that both the other girl and his girlfriend deserved better than to be cheated on. If I'd known that what I did that day would backfire in the worst possible way, then I probably would have just kept my mouth shut. That was back then, and after he started that rumor, I just stopped talking to him. I still had to live with him under the same roof, but that was it, and I tried my very best to avoid conversation with him at any cost. He moved out for college after a few months, but even when he'd come back home for the holidays, I'd avoid him like the plague. I wouldn't say I went NC with him after I moved out because that wasn't possible because both of us would come back for the holidays and our parents had instructed us both to be on our best behavior around our relatives, so we tried our best to civil to each other for our parents' sake, but that's about it. I didn't have any intention of attending his wedding either, but my mother told me that it'd be really strange if I didn't, and my parents care a lot about putting up appearances, so I did as they said, and I think I got lucky that I did because that's how I found out about my sister-in-law's affair. My sister-in-law, Chloe, 28F, I'm using a fake name for her, had been with my brother for 2 years before they got married. They'd met through a common friend. She'd never been very nice to me, whenever we used to meet at holidays and stuff, and would always act stuck up. I didn't find that very surprising since she was my brother's girlfriend, so I never made an effort to get to know her either, and neither of us liked the other. On the day of her wedding, about half an hour after the ceremony was over and I'd had my lunch, I decided that it was time to leave. At the time, Chloe had told everyone that she was going back to the hotel to change into something more comfortable so she could join in on the celebration, and had been gone for 10 minutes when I took my leave. On my way to the parking lot, however, I caught her making out with one of my brother's friends, Marcus, in a desolate corner where nobody would be able to see them, but unfortunately, my car was parked a few spots away from where they were standing. I was stunned and didn't even know what to say, but then, Chloe spotted me and tore away from Marcus as quickly as she could. I was frozen in my place and watched her push Marcus away and tell him to leave. He made a run for it and she decided to approach me. I didn't say a word while she talked to me and explained that while my brother was a wonderful guy and she knew that he'd always provide for her, her heart wanted something else. Which just meant that my brother was rich enough for her to marry, but Marcus was the one she loved. I was repulsed because I always did look down on gold diggers, but then Chloe requested me to keep this quiet and she'd give me whatever I wanted. Something just clicked at that point and I decided that I wanted to get back at my brother for everything that he'd put me through. Had it been someone else that was getting cheated on, I would have definitely spoken up and let them know, but my brother himself had taught me the importance of staying silent sometimes. He'd been the one to teach me that just because you know things, doesn't mean you have to say things back in high school. So I told Chloe that I'd keep quiet, but only if she'd be willing to pay me $1,000 every month. I knew that my brother made a decent amount of money and Chloe had a somewhat okay income as well, but it wasn't as much as my brother's. He's a data analyst and Chloe works at the front desk in a hotel, so they could definitely afford to spare $1,000 for me every month. Chloe had initially been a little resistant, but I reminded her that she herself had told me that she was ready to offer me anything and I'd named my price, so the ball was now in her court. She could either agree to my terms and send me the money every month, or I could go and tell my brother everything. I was fine with either. She tried to negotiate, but I put my foot down and refused to back down, so eventually, she had to agree. I've been working as an HR representative at a firm after I graduated from college and I can live nicely. $1,000 isn't something I wouldn't be able to do without, but it definitely did help. Not only financially, but I also felt great knowing that I was getting back at my brother and his wife for being horrible to me. That's the way it had been for the last 6 months until last week. Marcus decided to pay me a visit out of the blue. I could see through the cameras outside that he'd bought a cake with him to make it look like it was my birthday or something, and I guessed that that's how he'd gotten past security, by saying it was a surprise. I didn't trust him at all and was skeptical about letting him into my apartment, so he spoke to me from right outside the door. Apparently, Chloe had finally told him about our little arrangement and he didn't like it, so he'd come over to talk to me and tell me that I needed to back off. He said that I couldn't just blackmail Chloe like this and told me that if I tried to get in touch with her again, then he'd make sure that I'd have hell to pay. I was really pissed off and told him to leave me alone, and he did, but only after he reminded me that he was capable of turning my life into a total nightmare if he put his mind to it. He left the cake for me at the door and it said nothing apart from the B word and icing. I hate his guts, but I've got to hand it to him. He does know how to execute the theatrics just perfectly. After threatening me, Marcus went away and I decided to make the call and inform my brother about what Chloe had been up to for God knows how long. I was furious that she'd even dared to send someone to threaten me because, as far as I was concerned, I was holding up my end of the deal well and hadn't breathed a word of what I'd caught her doing to anyone at all. And she'd had the audacity to let Marcus threaten me. I knew that she knew about Marcus' visit because after he left, I checked my phone to call her first, but I realized that she'd blocked me, which is why I decided to call my brother up. Fortunately, he did answer the call and I told him everything, including the bribes, and said that now he could do whatever he wanted to with that information, and hung up before he could respond. Then I kept my phone aside and went for a short walk to clear my head. I came back to more than 50 texts and 10 missed calls from Chloe accusing me of ruining her life. My mother had also called me and I decided to call her back to understand what exactly was happening. Apparently, my brother had already suspected her of cheating because she'd been stupid enough to leave her phone unlocked around him several times, and he'd read a couple of texts from Marcus, but they weren't Sue's texts, so my brother didn't mind it, but he did question her on why exactly she'd speak to Marcus so often, because it's not like they were friends, as far as he knew. She'd convinced him that they were friends now and it was all platonic, but today, after I told my brother what was going on behind his back, he confronted Chloe and realized that she'd been stringing him along all this while after he checked her phone. Now he's about to file for divorce and is absolutely devastated. My parents are furious with me because I enabled this for 6 whole months and want me to apologize to my brother and return the money to him because it's blackmail money. I don't agree with what they're saying at all because first of all, I don't even think this is technically blackmail. She's the one who offered to do something for me. I know she probably meant to get me a spa treatment for free at the hotel or something less conspicuous than this, but this is what I wanted and she agreed to my terms. It wasn't blackmail, it was just a deal that his wife had struck up with me to keep her secret. Fair and square. So I don't understand what they're so up in arms about when it's Chloe they should be mad at right now. On top of that, the expectation that I'll apologize to my brother and return the money to him is absolutely ridiculous. I don't owe him either of those and I'm definitely not going to do it. He was a jerk to me and ruined 4 years of my life with his stupid rumor and I haven't been able to get over that still. As for the money, that's between Chloe and me and since I held up my end of the deal, I think I'm definitely entitled to what I got and I'm not paying anyone back. I told my parents that I wasn't doing either of those things so now they're threatening to cut me out of their lives for good because I've turned into someone they don't recognize anymore. It's been a week and I haven't yet spoken to them but they remind me every day that what I did was really very messed up but I honestly don't think so. Ida for taking bribes from my sister-in-law to hide her affair from my brother because my brother started a rumor about me in high school? Update 1. Hi, so I did what everyone here suggested and I decided to go NC with my family. This incident finally made me realize that my parents were also just as bad as my brother and I'm actually better off without all of them. They just suck and haven't ever been nice or kind to me. Everything they used to was just to make it seem like we were a happy family on the surface, but I know the truth. I know that they never stood up for me and let me get bullied for years without a word because they didn't want to get into it. They never reprimanded my brother either for starting the rumor because of the same reason and dismissed it as normal sibling rivalry when they could see very clearly that he'd made me suffer badly. Nobody had bullied him after his girlfriend yelled at him in the cafeteria, it was just one bad day for him. But to retaliate for one bad day, he ruined 4 years of my life and even then, I continued to try and act normal around him just for the sake of my parents because I wanted to be a good daughter to them. Just for some crumbs of affection and validation, but I'm not gonna get any of that. Even my brother and I were close growing up and only grew apart when he started high school because he was suddenly too cool for his little sister and I was too dorky to be seen with him. So really, my entire family has been nothing but shallow and cruel and I'm actually glad that I'm finally done with them. They were never going to love me and they were never going to change. Even with this incident, they found a scapegoat and tried to make me the bad guy without even caring about why I'd done what I'd done. Had they tried to fix things for me back when I was suffering or intervened and made my brother be a decent freaking person to me, then maybe I wouldn't have done something so extreme and unnecessary to him just for revenge. But they don't care about my past, all they care about is that I ruined my brother's future and his marriage. I'm selfish, I'm heartless and I'm a criminal and so much more, but he's just their perfect little boy, who, by the way, is in his late 20s. I was foolish to ever expect that my family would be kind to me and I was an even bigger fool to continue to stay in touch with my brother after what he did to me just so that my parents wouldn't be mad at me. I should have just cut him off after I moved out for college and let that be the end of whatever little relationship we still had. But as they say, every cloud has a silver lining, so I'm gonna choose to look at the bright side of this. Karma finally got him and now, he's going to experience the pain that he'd put so many girls and women through during his high school and college days just so that he could appear cool and desirable to his other lame guy friends. The cheater finally gets cheated on, life has come full circle for him. All I'm gonna do is just grab the popcorn and wait for the drama to unfold because I've earned this. It's not like I'm walking away totally empty-handed because my sister-in-law's bribe still covered half of my rent for a couple of months and it was great while it lasted. So right now, I have no regrets to speak of. It's been 2 weeks since I put up my original post and thank you to everyone who commented because that did help a lot more than I expected. I mulled over it, sulked about it, and even wept a lot, but finally, I did manage to block all my family members everywhere I could. I've also told security not to let any of my family visit me, so there's just no way they can get to me unless I choose to let them. As for Marcus and Chloe, they've pretty much been MIA ever since the news broke. I have no updates on them since we don't have any friends in common. I can still get updates on what my family's up to from time to time from a couple of cousins of mine, but I have no clue about them. In a way, it's quite relaxing since I don't have to worry about anyone now and can just live the way I want to without giving a damn about my parents. I feel a lot less burdened than I used to and I love this feeling. I don't need any of them back either. Update 2. Okay, quick update. I just learned that the reason Chloe has been so quiet is because she's pregnant. And things are really messy right now between her and my brother, but my parents are obviously blaming me for it. One of my cousins who still follows them on Facebook sent me a post by my dad where he'd named and shamed me for ruining my brother's marriage over some petty high school grudge. It's not my brother's fault that he was cheating back then, and neither is it Chloe's fault that she'd been cheating on my brother, it's all somehow my fault. He's posted about what has happened but has left out all the important details, including the fact that Chloe was the one who had tried to make a deal with me first and not the other way around. It's not like I caught her with Marcus and then forced her to cough up money every month or else I'd spill the beans. I didn't even have that idea until she made an offer, so they really can't use the term blackmail here, that's literally just ridiculous. And my older relatives, my aunts, and uncles who are around my parents' age or older are obviously on their side because A, they don't know my side of the story, and B, even if they knew, they wouldn't care because my parents have made it very clear that I'm the one at fault here and I'm the one who needs to be put in my place. So they've taken it upon themselves to send me several texts expressing their disappointment and disgust regarding my actions, and they're even saying that they expected better from me. Which is just so crazy because literally who even are these people? They only ever used to care about me during the holidays, and even then, our conversations would be strained and weird. I don't consider my extended family close at all, so it's ridiculous that they even expect something from me. They don't even know me well enough to expect anything. Let's start there. And my dad hasn't put up the story about how I got bullied relentlessly because of my brother's rumor. He's conveniently left that very important detail and passed that incident off as petty when it really wasn't. He has no idea how hard those 4 years were for me. I was totally on my own with barely anyone to have my back, be it at school or at home, and I'll pray that no other kid has to go through something like that. It broke me, and no, I don't think I'll ever just get over it. They just want to act like the victims right now and make it seem like everything was my fault, but unfortunately, I'm not going to let them get away with it. I've posted my side of the story as well so that they can't control the narrative. It's just been 15 minutes since I posted, and I don't have the nerve to check my notifications right now because I'm not prepared for all the hate that I might get. But I know for sure a couple of my friends and some family members definitely will stand by my side on this one. I'm just hoping that the positivity outweighs the negativity. Honestly, I'm just done with my family. They're literally the human version of a bad migraine, and I can't wait for this drama to blow over. Update 3, hey everybody. So it's been about 3 days since I shared my side of the story, and it got quite popular among people who went to school with my brother and me. Unfortunately, that post also reached another woman from my brother's year, and she publicly dragged my brother for lying to her about his marital status. She'd read my post and then read the post that my dad had posted for context, and since it was a public post, she'd been able to find it easily. So then she put 2 and 2 together and shared that apparently, my brother, who was acting so devastated that his wife had cheated on him with his friend, was not too far behind her. About a month ago, this woman had been visiting the city since she'd moved out of state after high school ended. My brother replied to one of her stories on Instagram, struck up a conversation with her, and asked her out on a date, and they did get intimate as well later on. He didn't tell her he was married, and he'd very cleverly used a burner account to text her instead of his real profile where he had pictures with Chloe. Apparently, he uses that account to stalk women he knows, so at least he's smarter than Chloe. So this unsuspecting woman kept her meeting with him a secret for ages, and then when she left, my brother had even promised to keep in touch, but then blocked her everywhere after she went back, and it was only now that she found out the whole truth. It was crazy that my brother had done this, but it wasn't surprising because, after all, a cheater will always remain a cheater. It's just hilarious that he ended up with another one of his kind as well, and now, they're caught in a divorce and what's going to be a very interesting custody battle because Chloe doesn't even know who the father of her child is yet. I've obviously been having the time of my life hearing about all the drama that's been going on with them, because this was the guy who was extremely cruel to me as a teenager and scarred me for life. And now, life was dealing him even worse cards. This is just karma at its best, and it's so damn entertaining for me because I don't care about them now, so I'm just watching it all unfold like a real-life soap opera.
Attention, smash the like button so more people can enjoy this video.